compared to many other countries, India stands a best chance based on our stable government policies, democratic way of doing things, and economic growth that is happening.
I think the government this time has a very serious intent of making this ecosystem bloom in India.
Any kind of PLI or incentive scheme is a very motivating factor for the companies here. It makes the operations here very competitive, particularly in an environment where each country is vying to get that investment.
Thank you guys for coming. I think we have a good topic today, and we have some really bright minds here who are in the thick of electronic manufacturing and product sales. As you guys know, I mean, anybody who is in even remotely connected to electronics manufacturing and sales know that there is a serious global shortage of components and products. Today we'll ask people on the panel what the root causes are and where they see this supply chain issue to end up in the next, say, year to 3-5 years time. So we have with us Mr. Anku Jain, who is from MediaTek, and we have Sanjay Gupta from NXP, and Mr. Rajesh Gupta from Micron. So the first question is, what is, when people talk about supply chain shortages, how is it impacting your planning, your product sales forecasting, and how are you addressing your customers' needs today?
Sure. Thanks for the question, and it's a pleasure to be here on this very important topic of semiconductors shortage and supply challenges. And just to give the perspective, at the beginning of the pandemic, when it started in Q1 of 20, right? Nobody had seen the crystal ball how things are going to pan out, and at that peak of the pandemic, everyone thought that, let's say from the automotive perspective, as an example, which is supposed to be a luxury gadget, not really the necessity for everyday life. So a lot of auto suppliers thought that the sales of cars is going to go down until things come out, and a lot of semiconductor suppliers who were very dominant in the automotive thought that it's okay to release some of the fab slots, if you will, right? So it's like a competition going into some of the few fabs, as we all know, in Taiwan. So some of the auto suppliers thought that we can take back our committed slots and we will get back when things get better. But one of the things that everyone underestimated, that the work from home and pandemic is going to push the demand for consumer electronics, laptops, desktops, your wearable gadgets, your speaker phones, to exponentially high rates. And it just so happened that the companies who were supplying to these suddenly took all the release slots which were released by automotive people, and they never came back. So to put it simplicity, for everyone to understand why it happened, that some of the committed supply from manufacturing went back from auto players to non-auto players, and it continued to go up for next many quarters, and that's where we landed up. Now, to come to your question, how and what we should be doing or what we are doing to address this. So one thing that we realized, let's say in an Indian context, that compared to some of the global players, our Indian OEMs were not planning for long term, right? So that was the one major lesson, that we were based on our just-in-time culture. We were not giving long-term orders, neither it was in our DNA. So this was one of the biggest handshaking we did with our customers, that we need to plan like some of our European countries and OEMs, that we have at least 2 to 3 years forecast. Because if that is in place, we can give the same forecast to our central command centers, and then we can take care of Indian customers in a much better way. From the internal perspective, honestly, because we are the 90% design house for NXP, our design, product development, nothing got impacted. Rather, it got expedited during COVID, and we continue to innovate during this time. So that way, we are well on track.
Anku, similar lines, were you impacted as a product developer because of the global shortage, and did that impact any of your commitments, existing commitments, or going forward?
Yeah, sure. So let me quickly introduce MediaTek first. We are a global semiconductor company, and we design chips for various verticals like smartphones, smart TVs, routers, and VADs, and so on. So definitely, this topic is something which is very, very relevant to us. We did get impacted by all the things which have happened in the last 2 years. And I think, as Sanjay mentioned, the demand. There are two things which happened due to which this shortage came up. One is the demand of electronics. We all of us were at home and using TVs and set-top box and smartphones, etc. So the demand really shot up, and at the same time, due to the supply chain disruptions, the value chain got impacted. And I think these two things really created a shortage of components, and I think that's a reason why we are here today. And I think from MediaTek point of view, I can talk in two different segments. One is about our own product development. I think that really did not get impacted because we are a design company, fabless company, and all our milestones and all our commitments, internal commitments, were met without any issues, and we were able to tape out a lot of new chips, including our 5G Dimensity series chips, and which are doing very well. So our internal commitments did very well. We did not get impacted at all. But regarding our customers, and we did have to manage the expectation of the customers because of the upsurge in demand. We had some challenges in meeting those demands. I think that's something which we are now managing quite well. And again, as Sanjay mentioned, it's about how do we manage the situation. I think constraints are very clear. It's a situation which never happened in the past. I think 2 years ago, things were in a different, things were happening very smoothly. So these disruptions, no one had faced this disruption. But now with the disruption being 2 years old, I think all of us have started to learn to work in this environment. And definitely, the ways to do it is to have longer forecast. We are working with our foundry partners as well as our customers, and how do we, have a forecast which can satisfy everyone. So that is the kind of effort we have made, and I think our customers are quite happy with that. And one thing which I want to mention is that in the last 2 years, our revenue has actually doubled. So despite all these disruptions, actually our revenue has doubled from about $8 billion 2 years ago to about 17 billion now. So that shows that management has played a key role in making it happen.
Coming to you, Rajesh, when Anku said we have to, live with it and get used to it. But my question is, for how long? I mean, do you think this is forever?
Thanks, James. First of all, it's good to be back in a conference with people face to face. I'll also quickly say Micron, I represent Micron. Micron is one of the leading global manufacturer and producer of memory and storage products. So, as my colleagues have said, the situation we are in developed over a period of time, right? The demand for semiconductors, all kinds of semiconductors and chips has been growing for last several years. If you look around, the level of digitization that is happening, the growth of e-commerce, the growth of data centers, growth of smarter clients, smartphone transition in developing countries. And then one thing that which you would all be seeing is automotive side, right? So if you look at your cars, today your cars has the dashboard has more electronics than it was ever before. Autonomous vehicles, e-vehicles, right? So the industry was already in the process, in a situation where the demand was very high, and then pandemic caused a sort of disruption. So we know that last one and a half year has been tough. What we are doing as a manufacturer is a set of multiple things. First of all, we all learned that this is an environment where you really need diversification of your supply chain. Take Micron, for example. We already have our manufacturing footprint across 5 or 6 regions. So that diversification gives you a cushion in case there is a very, very specific situation in one area. Then it is very important for us to work with our customers and get a much robust demand forecast done. As Sanjay said, perhaps this is not the time when you can rely on just-in-time kind of inventory. So we are working with our customers so that they give us longer-term forecasts, so that we can go back and work with our suppliers and ensure the supply and availability. Last but not the least, it is important for everyone to look at diversification, longer-term planning, and invest in much more smart technologies. For example, to many of our customers, our advice is look at smart manufacturing. Now, how it helps, in implementation of digital tools, implementation of more technology can be very helpful in this environment. I'll give you one Micron example. In the middle of the pandemic, in a fab, it is very important to keep doing your equipment upgrade. Now, when there are travel restrictions, the equipment supplier just could not travel to our facilities. So in that time, making use of AR, making use of virtual reality tools, actually we worked with our suppliers and they did the entire equipment upgrade pretty much in a virtual manner, and which was a very significant requirement, and it really helped us boost our manufacturing. So these are the kind of recommendations we are also sharing with our customers, that look at more automation, more digital tools, and hopefully things will improve by next year.
Coming back to you, Sanjay, we have talked about planning and forecasting, and if you look at India, recently the government has offered a lot of incentives to research-based small product developers in electronics. Do you think there is a need for, say, large high-end processor makers like NXP to have some kind of special programs for such niche R&D related or R&D focused initiatives?
So I think it's a very important and relevant question that you have asked about what companies like ours can do for the upcoming semiconductor design growth in the country for, let's say, young, small and big entrepreneurs who might want to big. And I truly believe that India is at an inflection point from a semiconductors perspective, both in design as well as manufacturing. Manufacturing, because we are actually pushed based on the situation that has happened in the last couple of years, that relying on one country for a global supply chain itself is not a great idea. And any kind of diversification will help to reduce the risk with a dual supplier strategy. And compared to many other countries, India stands a best chance based on our stable government policies, democratic way of doing things, and economic growth that is happening. So manufacturing, I think it is no-brainer with the semiconductors scheme that the government has pushed, the famous PLI scheme, that was launched just at the beginning of the year. I think it is one of the benchmark schemes that India has done compared to rest of the world. No other country will offer 50% direct subsidy, not just on the tools cost, but on the entire project cost. So up to $3 billion, I believe, subsidy government can directly give, and that includes your engineering, that includes your real estate, your infrastructure, the entire development, including central support. Plus, there is an additional state support for water, electricity, which are the key component. So certainly we are well placed here, and with the great push coming directly from Honorable Prime Minister and MIT as a department which is really focused, I think we are all set. Now, specifically going into the design, India historically has been known as the R&D factory for the world, and this is a time we can actually do it for India, by India. And to do that, the DLI scheme, the design linked incentive that government has launched, again, it's a unique program where I believe up to $2 million direct 50% subsidy government will give. So all the startups, all the new SMEs which want to make their name big into semiconductors and related design space, this is the time and opportunity. And what companies like us can do, to answer your final question, we are doing a lot of strategic programs which are trying to incubate startups. And the startups are both in a product arena as well as they are very focused on the semiconductors arena. We have done a tie-up with the IIT Hyderabad, FabCI, where NXP, FabCI and MIT, all three of us together are funding 8 to 10 startups each year and grooming them from the early stage all the way till the final stage when they are standing on their own feet, and giving them all enablement from technology standpoint, the entire product development strategy, including the financial assistance. So this is one thing. Going a little bit further, how we incubate them right at the university level. So we have started some unique programs with universities, some of the unique design challenges like AIM, which is something I would like to mention. AIM stands not just for the goal, but also artificial intelligence driven mobility. Because we are at a point where whether it is an autonomous vehicle or a smartwatch, everything is needing to be mobile with a edge connectivity and a secure connectivity with the rest of the world, including cloud and other devices. And I think that's where these programs, I'm sure, will really help in pushing the envelope further. And finally, the entire industry in India has never been cohesive before, with the IESA, Indian Electronics and Semiconductor Association, where all the collective companies together are trying to have the same dream and working in tandem with government. So I believe we are truly at an inflection point and will be able to take this dream further.
Same topic to you, Anku, but specifically about do you manage your distributor reseller network to address or sync with some of these programs to help this ecosystem that that the government is trying to target?
Yeah, first let me again kind of reiterate what was mentioned earlier. I think the government this time has a very serious intent of making this ecosystem bloom in India. And I think they realize that the reasons for doing that are 2 or 3 reasons which are very important. One is about the demand itself. Local consumption is growing so fast that we have to have a local manufacturing facilities in India more and more going forward. Secondly, it is also a strategic advantage. It would be a strategic failure if we don't have manufacturing in India. As we see geopolitically around us, if a country stops supplying chips to us, then what do we do? And that will be a big problem for the country. So I think we have to eventually have a system in place where we can have local manufacturing facilities which are required, and we cannot be really impacted by what's happening around us. And of course, thirdly, the foreign exchange requirements. Our import bill is so high that for electronics that we have to have something in place in India. So I think government does realize all this, and I think therefore they have put this waves of PLI schemes in the last few years, culminating with the fab scheme which happened recently. I think the government really has a very serious intent, and I think this time we are going to create that ecosystem here in India where manufacturing can happen locally. And the way, what MediaTek has been doing, so we have been present in India for the last 17 years, and it's been, almost 100% R&D company. We have about 1,000 people here in India already doing R&D here. And what we feel is that I think this local manufacturing is going to happen. There is no doubt. So what we are doing is we want to invest more effort here in the sense that we want to grow our headcount. And that's going to happen in the next few years, because we feel that we need to support the local R&D companies, the local startups, which will bloom in the coming years. And therefore, we want to get ready for that. And therefore, we are investing in a lot of effort into creating more R&D engineers here. And that is one thing which we are doing. And then, apart from that, of course, the question you asked about our ecosystem partners, for that, we do have a support system for that. And of course, a lot of R&D support is happening from here. But other than that, we cooperate with them, in the sense that better planning so that the current chip shortage issue can be handled well. So we have those kind of interactions to make sure, we are able to tide over these problems right now. Yeah.
Rajesh, even though Micron is relatively new to India, you guys have grown quite substantially in the last 3-4 years. What do you see as the driving force that is making you guys to aggressively grow in this country?
Thank you. So, just building on to what my colleague said, any kind of PLI or incentive scheme is a very motivating factor for the companies here. It makes the operations here very competitive, particularly in an environment where each country is vying to get that investment. IT, semiconductor design, development, these are high investment, high capital incentive, intensive activities. So everybody is vying for it. India, as all of us know, has been a big pool of talent in the technology development. And I think what Micron also realized and made most of the available available resources and available talent here. And today, we in a short period of around 3 years, we have around almost 3,000 plus engineers between our Bengaluru and Hyderabad development centers, and involved in almost all elements of design and development programs. So it is not only one, but all product categories, both DRAM and NAND, manufacturing planning, and software development, firmware, you name it. In all activities, work is happening here. And I think what India offers obviously is a very rich, robust talent pool, which is able to now contribute in the latest design and development endeavors. So, and that endeavor will continue. We believe that in next 2 years, we'll have almost 5,000 people engaged in these activities. And this is also a part of diversification and globalization of our activities. We were talking about constraints. One of the things Micron last year announced was over next 10 years, almost a decade, we'll be making around $150 billion of investments in new manufacturing facilities, new design development centers. So this is part of that endeavor. So we see that the opportunities of design, development, etc. is so rich here, and we are making most of it.
Sanjay, I think we have time for one more round before we have to take their questions. So, we always link the supply chain issues with COVID and the after effects of that disruption. Internally, your team, were you affected by that? And if you were, how did you address that? How did you manage that?
See, this supply situation, I would say, is a cyclic in nature. So to answer your question, if COVID was not there, right, what would have happened? I can clearly relate 10 years back, 15 years back, even 5 years back, we had a situation where our fabs were not running at full capacity. And the biggest challenge in companies like ours was running a fab means spending multi-million dollars every single day, the operational cost itself. And those days the discussion used to be how to fill the fabs, otherwise it is bringing down your profitability and gross margin at a company level. And now we are seeing a cycle where not just fabs are full, you do not get a slot for your chips to get manufactured for 6 months, 3 months. And it is really very difficult to tell your customers that the chips will be supplied 9 months after your order, right? Now, if somebody need to launch a two-wheeler or a new phone or a new washing machine, they cannot wait for 9 months waiting for one chip. And we all heard stories about a car is ready, fully built, and waiting for the last chip to come to roll out of the showroom, right? So it is what it is, right? Supply chain in semiconductors is one of the most capital intensive, costly process. And I think we cannot solve the problem. We can only manage it by, very meticulous planning. And having said that, the whole world is right now, including at a country level as well as company level, trying to invest into fabrication facilities. I can foresee future within few years we'll have oversupply, and when the cycle turns up, you will be in the same same boat how to fill those fabs. So I would say we just need to manage it with a better planning, and that is one lesson within India that we realized, as I said earlier. The better the planning at every level, going to the last leaf, it will help us to manage the situation better, but there cannot be a perfect recipe for it.
On similar lines, Anku, how did MediaTek address the human disruption that was caused by COVID?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the R&D part of it was not impacted because people were able to work from home, and the productivity was as good or even better sometimes, and people were able to meet all the deadlines. But from our customer point of view, I think our customers, as Sanjay mentioned, definitely, some customers were not happy, that they were not getting the supply. But that is it's a general global issue. That's nothing. It's not a company-specific issue. And I think, but it has given. I would like to reiterate that it has given a very golden opportunity to Indian manufacturing ecosystem, because if this didn't happen, then all these schemes that we hear in the government, that opportunity may not have come up in such a beautiful manner, right? And I think this situation has created a opportunity for India to create the ecosystem locally here, manufacturing ecosystem locally here. And I think that's something which has come out of it, and that's a good thing for us, right? And also, as a company point of view, if we have such facilities in India, I think it also helps MediaTek to cooperate locally, and if we have a fab here, it will be great, news for us. And we can actually work with them locally, and it helps the overall supply chain. So this supply chain issue is getting better. Of course, it has a tough time. It's getting better. People have learned to manage and do better forecast, and also diversify their locations. So all that is happening now. I think we'll be in good shape.
Again, on similar topic, did Micron face challenges during this time to build up the team? And in that sense, did either the ease of building up the team or the difficulty in building up the team, did that in any way impact your commitments to your suppliers?
Yeah, like all suppliers, we had our fair share of challenges. As I said before, the demand of all the components went up, while there were disruptions and constraints. So, there were two or three ways that we tried to address it at Micron. One was for our own internal processes. There was continuation of the diversification continued. As I said, we had 4 or 5. We had different manufacturing facilities. So the capacities were augmented, whichever is managed. For a longer term, as I already said, we have made announcements about the future investment plans. So that was the internal part. With our customers, again, as I said, we started working with them on much longer and much more accurate, robust forecasts that they could share, so that we could do a much better job of planning. We have also encouraged them also to look at diversifying or their resources. There is another aspect. I think there is a role for the entire ecosystem to improve the supply chain efficiency. Not only it's a vendor and customer issue, there is a whole logistics chain. So much of logistics is today paper oriented, right? Products move from one country, one continent to another continent. There is so much of still paperwork at ports. In this environment, if goods remain in custom clearance or in transit for longer period, that is really adding to the existing problem. So I think there is a need for the entire ecosystem to work together, bring more digitalization to make the entire supply chain fast, robust, and last but not the least, as I said, everybody has to use this as an opportunity to implement more smarter tools and technologies in their entire planning and in manufacturing process.
I think now we should open up questions to the audience. Anybody has any questions?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Hello. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. There's one quick question to all the manufacturers of chip. We have been talking about, the incentive schemes that the government has brought out due to the crisis. But is there a commitment already made in terms of investment by any of your organizations, or it is still in a discussion and a talk?
So I guess the question is, with the DLI and PLI schemes that government has launched, is there a commitment from our organizations already? So the short answer is, MITI, which is the institute from government trying to reach out to all major multinational companies operating out of India. And within my organization, they have reached out to CEO level and proposed and presented the proposals. Since these discussions require multi-billion dollars of commitment, so they are still under discussion phase at this point in time. But yes, they have reached out at the highest level.
Anku?
We are actually a fabless company, so we don't manufacture. But I think what we are committed to is that when companies come up in India, we will be giving full support to them. That's what we are committed, and we are trying to prepare for that and growing our presence in India.
Similarly for us, I think there is recently a PLI for design development, and our company is in the process of discussing. We find that a very attractive proposition. So the work is in place on that.
And I will just add to that there are three aspects of this investment. The foundry investment is up to $6 billion of the overall cost, and that is where the maximum, I would say, capital investment decisions are done, and that's why it will take maximum time. The second one, which is OSAT and ATMP units for the entire backend fab, which involves packaging, testing. There the investment is less than $10 million, and those are easier decisions that companies are going to do. And third one is a DLI, which is design related, which is threshold is just a couple of $1 million. So in that order, you will see companies are going to propose based on the threshold that investment limits are.
At this point, the only fear or the contemplation is that as the crisis goes away and the other capacities build up and the crisis disappears, will there be any incentive left to invest in India? Because the stock takes time, and by the time time flies, probably this whole thing might just
I think
fizzle out.
Incentive will be still there because all the companies understand about the need of diversification. I think that need is now very clear. People don't want to just invest or have their location only in one geography. So I think India is trying to grab that opportunity and giving an opportunity to different companies to diversify to India also. So I think even if after the COVID goes away, I think this investment will continue because people really want to do that, diversify.
If I may add, if there was one lesson for the entire industry and ecosystem during the pandemic, that was the need for diversification of your supply chain. So, that itself is a driving factor. And in that environment, when India comes out with a very interesting proposition, I think for most global companies, that's a very serious concern.
See, the other addition to this is what is the indigenous demand itself that is coming out of India, right? So with the 1.4 billion population in India, and the middle class growing and adding another 50 million every year, the affordability levels to buy the higher level of electronic gadgets, be it a TV or a household white goods or a mobile phone, is increasing every single year. And the indigenous demand itself is going to put out our electronics demand, based on all estimates, more than $500 billion, right? Today we are importing most of it, and that is putting pressure on the rupee to dollar valuation, just like oil. So I think there is another strategic angle, how we reduce the dependency on the external imports, and that is the only way possible if we have our internal consumption to be supported by internal manufacturing, right? So it will have multiple strategic reasons.
Yeah, we could. Again, thank you for coming, and thank you for the time.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
Panelists, thank you. All.
Okay.
Before we have a tea break, I would like to request our moderator, Mr. James Tharayil, to give away mementos to our speakers. Our first speaker, Mr. Anku Jain. He's MD MediaTek. Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Vice President and India Country Manager, NXP Semiconductor. Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Director and Country Manager Sales, India, Micron Technology. And on behalf of Exhibitions India, we have a small token of our appreciation for our moderator, sir. Mr. James Tharayil, Chief Executive Officer, Tacodi Electronics. Thank you so much for your presence, and thank you for the wonderful session.